Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Welcome to another episode of Ideology. And today we are going to again talk about surveillance capitalism. That is something we talked in our very first episode, and we are going to continue on from that. I think this is going to be an interesting topic for all of us. To begin with, very quickly, surveillance capitalism is about monetization of people's data, and when we say that, that is taking into consideration people's behavior and people's movement. This term was coined by Professor Shoshana Zuboff in 2014. To move further, we talk about capitalist rationality in very quickly. It is premised on self-interest, not social obligations, moral commitments, or altruism. In the capitalist way of thinking, each of us owned ourselves as property. So this was capitalist rationality. Now we come back again to surveillance capitalism. So some people can say that digital revolution offers so much of promises rather than exploitation. So why are we worried about surveillance capitalism? Professor Zuboff says that technology has transformed capitalism from collective to individual approach. That is, previously there was a market and it had to provide for a certain group of people living in a community, but now I am personally looking after my mobile and I can spend hours with that without any external interference. But this mobile is basically controlled by the technology giants, who are in their turn exploiting us, and this is where they're developing an individual approach and not a collective approach to us. So previously it was supply and demand, famous concept in the capitalism and in the business market, but now digital milieu focuses on tracking my eyeballs and controlling more than just cookies, and they collect all these things. So this is what they have developed, a fast track to monetization for themselves, but for us it is exploitation. So how Professor Zuboff defines capitalism? She says that claiming private human experience as raw material and translating that into behavioral data is actually surveillance capitalism. That is very precise of her. The process that she says involves is that this behavioral data from all us users is then transformed into prediction products, and these products are then sold into behavioral future markets. Google was the first to collect surplus data that was more than required but for them to offer their services, and Google knew that this process had to be unilateral, because anybody out of us, you or I, know that we are being monitored upon or eavesdropped upon. We will never give away our personal data, but now we willingly do that to these technical giants. Our innocence, why are we innocent about it? Because we rushed to the internet and we thought that this is going to be democratization of knowledge and empowerment and help for real problems, but surveillance capitalism awaited us ahead. This was very unfortunate to the mankind. Why we still fail to detect this? Because of the unprecedented methods and techniques that impedes our ability to do this. This has been spread in kind of a very intricate manner, very subtle and very passive, that we do not realize that we are giving away our privacy to these tech giants, and in turn they are monetizing upon that. Professor Zuboff says that 2000 and especially 2001 era was important. Number one, because of the following 3 or 4 reasons. Number one, because of self-regulated markets and free market economy concept. There was not much regulations given by the government in especially this new evolving tech field and internet. Then 9/11 suddenly happened, and this provided Western governments from privacy approach to obtain all the information approach for all the citizens. The third category was intricate crafting, obfuscation, and misdirection that people cannot live without digital, and this was how they engaged us and they convinced us to use internet has become a new essential and new normal for us, and now exactly from paying utility bills and learning and entertainment and interaction and socialization, we are all walking through this supply and chain mechanism, and at the end we're being greeted by surveillance capitalism, which is very unfortunate. What has happened up till now is maybe not acceptable, but what lie ahead is more concerning and going to be more dangerous, especially this post pandemic corona, where all of our lives are literally limited and glued upon our mobile screens because we have nothing else to do. We're restricted to our houses, social distancing, and this new way of socialization has emerged and become popular. Surveillance capitalism has transformed from monitoring to actuating kind of approach. All these tech giants have collected a sufficient amount of data to further exploit. They have learned to tune, to condition, and herd our behaviors with subtle and sublime cues, rewards, and punishments. And now they are going to shunt our behavior towards most profitable outcome. They want us to act in a way which are going to give them profits. Instead of our free right to future tense, it is going to be a future which will be an engineered aspect of mine, which is very concerning for me. And ultimately democracy is going to vanish if the surveillance capitalism is going to continue. Why? Because without autonomy in action and in thoughts, we have very little capacity for the moral judgment and critical thinking which is necessary for democratization or democratic society. There is a ray of hope that Zubov has suggested, and we all believe that there's always a hope behind everything. And that is, how are we going to end this dynamic? Number one, public awakening and saying no, we are not okay, and we show our outrage. I can recall this approach to be very plausible because a change always occurs by saying no. And since I am a Muslim, I believe my faith starts by saying no. La, I don't believe in the status quo. This is not okay. And this is where exactly a change starts from. Secondly, regulating the market and digital mechanism, privacy laws, and antitrust laws has to be established and has to be erected. And finally, once people understand that is awareness comes to us, we will reject and disrupt the link between supply and demand. And then we introduce competitors because we cannot live without Google. We need a search engine. We need these tech giants like YouTube's and Facebook and things like that. So we have to make suitable alternatives for that. Which bring back to us our digitalization and an era of opportunity and democratization and empowerment, because we all believe that this technological advancement and this internet is going to be beneficial for us, but unfortunately minus this exploitation we have to move forward. And Professor Zuboff ends here, but my thoughts bubble comes up from here and starts from here. Why? Because aren't these the same logics that apply to capitalism itself? I mean, I started with the premise of capitalism that we are all property, and that talks about commodifying everything. Everything around us and surround us is kind of a commodity for a capitalist mind. This has become a new religion for us. There are no more Muslims, no more Christians, no more Jews and Hindus and Parsis, etc. But people are capitalists, essentially capitalist in their approach. So this is the same capitalist approach that is taken into surveillance capitalism, and that is actually the part of capitalism, to convert needs into unnecessary wants. We started utilizing these technology, and these tech giants started exploiting us. They started knowing our needs and they started converting them into demands and exploiting us. So I would conclude by saying that we have to say no to surveillance capitalism and we have to stand up against it. But more than that, we have to stand up against capitalism itself completely. We have to shunt capitalism. We have to remove capitalism from our lives. We have to ignore capitalism as a religion. It offers incentives, but incentives is to be taken as a separate thing, and capitalism has to be completely removed from the society. We are not all property. We cannot commodify everything, and there are genuine people who want their needs to be fulfilled. This can be done through simple trades and commerce and not through capitalism.